Listen, when it rains, it pours, and I know some people aren't going to like the negative Xbox stuff, but what do you want me to do? Like, I'm an Xbox guy. When I see the bad stuff happening, do you guys want me to just be like the other Xbox content creators that kind of play it up or whatever, or the ones that claim to be Xbox content creators, but they're really just playing on PC? Like, that's never going to be me. I'm not a PC gamer. I don't care about gaming on PC. I want a plug-and-play experience, and that's pretty much all I have ever wanted, you know? And it's a shame that things are going the way they are for Microsoft and Xbox fans, because there's not a lot of passion there anymore. You know, there's not passion there for Xbox anymore from Xbox themselves, right? Back in the Xbox One days, especially in the early days or whatever, there was passion from the people. They were like, we want to show that Xbox One isn't all about, you know, the DRM and all that stuff you've seen before. We really care about gaming. We really care about the games. It's games, games, games. You know, hey, let's do backwards compatibility. Let's do this. You know, they were really on top of it. And now there's just like this apathy where, you know, Xbox is just, Microsoft themselves are kind of not really caring about the Xbox. The fans are indifferent, which indifference from fans to a brand is pretty bad when you see that. You know, when you see that happening, it's not a good thing. You know, there's passion good, there's passion bad. I think there's honest, passionate Xbox players like myself who are very passionate. They don't like how the direction of Microsoft is going, versus people that are very apathetic of it and are just like, oh, it's the same thing when you see people go, well, streaming games is the future. I don't personally believe that, and I think, you know, gamers aren't going to want to be able to, you know, pay $70 to $100 per game that they can only stream, and that's a real bad situation at the end of the day. You know, and that's going to be something that Microsoft's going to have to focus on. But this isn't really great news. And even though there's been a lot of negativity in the sort of gaming world and things like that about Xbox, this is really, you know, again, we're starting to see things that hit home, because these are people who used to work at Xbox and people who like are in the know and things like that, and they're very much against what Microsoft is in the middle of doing. And, you know, that makes a lot of sense to me that, you know, they would be kind of against that. In some cases, it looks like they want Microsoft to kind of just stop dipping their toes in and just jump full in, which, you know, again, I've said that before. It's like Microsoft clearly doesn't want to be in the hardware business anymore, but they're really just kind of dipping their toes into doing that. You know, I think they're trying to slowly transition people into wanting to game on the cloud or a PC or whatever, and some people are going to be okay with that, but I think the majority just aren't going to be okay with that, and that's something that, you know, we're going to have to wait and see how that kind of the reaction is. But former Blizzard and Xbox executive Mike Ibarra says that, you know, Xbox needs to pick the lane and stick to it, and this is something that I actually believe too. Like, even though he's saying they should just give up hardware, that would be harder that way, but I think that's easier in the long run than stringing along fans. So Mike Ibarra, who served various roles at Microsoft for over 20 years, culminating a role as a corporate vice president on Xbox Live and Game Pass before becoming Blizzard president for 3 years, took to X to give his views on Xbox's current situation. He said, and I quote, "Tough to see Xbox confused about who it is and what it should be. Some great people there still. They have to figure out what needs to change, and fast. I'm a big fan, will always bleed green, cheering for the team from the sidelines. Pick your lane and stick to it." Now, asked by a follower what he thinks Xbox should do, Ibarra said that he felt they should focus on being a publisher rather than a console manufacturer. He said, and I quote, "It's simple to me. Xbox should strive to be the world's largest publisher of entertainment content. Get rid of everything else and get focused. Do not be afraid to say what you are. Embrace the lane." Now, asked how he aligned with Xbox's identity as a console manufacturer, Ibarra said, "From what I see, they are no longer that. Straddling the fence is not a winning plan." Ibarra was later asked by a follower whether he knew anything about Xbox's layoffs reportedly planned for this week, but he stressed that he knew nothing about what's going on there and hasn't for years. Now, Ibarra's comments, of course, follow those of former Microsoft Game Studios employee Laura Fryer, who recently shared her thoughts on the company's current direction on her YouTube channel, stating her view that Xbox's recent partnership with external hardware companies like Asus and Meta and AMD leads her to believe its own hardware business is effectively dead. Quote, obviously, as one of the founding members of the Xbox team, I'm not pleased with where things are today. I don't love watching all the value that I helped create slowly get eroded away. I'm sad because from my perspective, it looks like Xbox has no desire or literally can't ship hardware anymore, so this ROG Ally partnership is about a slow exit from the hardware business completely. Microsoft, of course, has adopted a multi-platform approach for its first-party games, with many titles releasing on PlayStation 5, same day a lot of times now, probably from here on out. It is nevertheless committed to releasing a next-generation Xbox to succeed the Series X and S, though whether that will continue to be a traditional console or more of a PC-like device with access to multiple stores remains to be seen. And again, you know, I think Microsoft maybe doesn't even know what they want to do 100%, but like if you're Xbox, if you're Microsoft or whatever, I think realistically what we're starting to see is that there is a really, really bad situation kind of developing where Microsoft is about to throw out everything, you know, and they really just, I don't think, care about the hardware side of things. I think they've got a little bit of a taste for the software side of things, and that they think that that's going to be the more successful route. Now, is that going to be the case? You know, I don't really know. I think that, you know, when there's a lull right now, that's probably going to be the best time for them to release stuff. But I also think that they are actively kind of running out of, you know, great games that are going to sell other places. You know, it's like so far a lot of what they release, and a lot of what they release, to be honest, just isn't really a big deal, to be completely clear. To be honest with you, I think it's just not a big deal. Like stuff like South of Midnight, Avowed, even Doom was kind of a flop. So, you know, I can't imagine stuff like Perfect Dark or any of those games, or even Fable, being a big deal. I could possibly see the novelty of Halo doing something for a little bit, but I don't really foresee that doing something that's going to be amazing, that's going to draw like millions of players every night, and it's going to revitalize the franchise. The same thing with Gears of War. Gears of War, I love that franchise. Everybody knows the first 3 games are some of my favorite games, and you know, I have a Gears tattoo and everything like that. But that game, the multiplayer is very tough. It's very hardcore. You know, casual gamers aren't going to like that, and you know, and then the story gets progressively worse through the newer games. So yeah, I think that, you know, people that might come over and try that game that are used to stuff like Fortnite and Apex or Warzone or whatever, and the quickness and speed of those games, aren't going to like Halo, and they're not going to like Gears of War, because those games play much slower by comparison. So that's going to be something that they're going to have to kind of figure out as well. You know, we'll see if that's something that can change in the future or whatever. But, you know, again, at the end of the day, when you have people who used to work at Xbox saying, hey, you know, the console side is pretty much dead, you might as well just admit it. You know, I think that's a real thing. You know, that's like a real blow. And I don't think anybody, like, I said this the other day, I was like, how can anyone who's an Xbox fan be happy or think the Xbox hardware is in a good spot right now? You know, I mean, if we just look at the things that's going on, they raised the prices by $100 across the board. It was never about tariffs, because those were never enacted anyway, and you know, they haven't walked them back since then. They stopped doing physical games on their own platform while they do them on the competition's platform. They've pulled out of multiple territories. They stopped exclusive games. From the looks of it and from the rumors of it, although we can wait till confirmation, they might be doing away with traditional hardware altogether, which is them giving up on the hardware. Like, people don't really understand it. If they're putting out a PC, that's not them putting out a console, that's them putting out a PC. To me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to really go out and support that. I'm not a PC gamer. I have no interest whatsoever in playing a PC. If I wanted to, I mean, obviously I would have already done that. Clearly, no interest whatsoever in that, and I hope that Microsoft kind of does something more traditional in the console space at the end of the day, because that's what I think, you know, the fans actually want. But you need exclusive games. No matter what you do, you can come out with a PC, right, and you still are gonna, you know, like, the console gamers aren't gonna flock to that. You're still gonna need exclusive games and things like that. that are going to interest people. And I think that's where Microsoft is going to run into the most problems, because you still need something there to draw people to your platform. And to those that go, oh, well, they'll be able to play PlayStation games, this, that, and the other. Doesn't the Steam Deck and stuff do like that too? And those things haven't sold. PCs can do that. It's just like, if you like, there's a difference between PC and console gamers, and I think that I think Microsoft has a problem with that. I don't know, but we'll see what's up. Thanks for watching. Crap Gamer out.